Hey families, as a family ministry, we so desire to partner with you to see your kids graduate with a personal and authentic faith that transforms the way they love God and love others. We believe as we partner together, we can have greater impact. As a family ministry, we desire to give you tools and equipping to help you have some critical conversations at home. As a family ministry, we've identified 4 of those conversations, and they're authentic faith, healthy habits, sexual integrity, and tech responsibility. Which brings us here today. We want to have a conversation about tech. We want to partner with you and equip you in how you can navigate tech as a parent with your kids. This isn't a conversation we can have in 10, 15 minutes. And so today is just going to be a conversation starter. And we hope the conversation we start today will go further in 3 ways. We hope today's conversation will start a deeper conversation between you and the Father as you lead your kids and you pray and ask Him for wisdom and discernment as you guide your kids and allow the Spirit to lead. We hope it starts a conversation with you and the other people that surround your village. Maybe those are friends or parents or grandparents, but we hope that around community you will have these conversations that will challenge and equip other parents who are walking in the same direction and on your team. And we hope this will start a conversation in your home. We hope that what we talk about today and the resources that we're going to give you will start conversations between you and your spouse, or you and your kids, or all together as a family, you begin to have more conversations. Tech can be super scary, and I often have to fight the fear. I can be super fearful that my kids will be exposed to something that's going to create all kinds of addiction. Or I can be fearful that something my kids are exposed to is going to change how they think about themselves and who God says they are, or the issues that they deal with. But here's what I know to be true. Scripture says that we do not have to be scared, that we don't have to have a spirit of fear. For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. As I follow the Spirit's lead, I do not have to live in fear. I can follow Him and be confident as I lead and teach my kids. So today we want to start a conversation, and we want you to lean into the Spirit more and more as He guides you. Because Jesus taught this, that in John 17, He's praying for His disciples. And if you are following Jesus, you are one of His disciples. And He teaches this: my prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but you protect them from the evil one. They are not of the world, and even as I am not of the world. Sanctify them by your truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, I have sent them into the world. So as we follow the Spirit and as we lead our kids, we can know that God has given us truth, that God has given us His word. And as we stay connected to Him, we can lead our kids to be in the world, but not of the world. In just a few seconds, you're going to see a video from a guy named Matt McKee, and he's going to help us start this conversation about tech. And then after that, Pastor Rob's going to give a few more thoughts and instructions on what's next.
Hey everyone, my name is Matt McKee, and I'm one of the co-authors of the book Parenting in a Tech World. Also a co-host of a course called Parenting in a Tech World. I'm a parent and a tech executive who has been standing at the intersection of parenting and tech for the past 2 decades. And before you reach for your phone to start passively scrolling through Instagram, and look, no judging, I do that too. Please give me your undivided attention for at least the next few minutes. When it comes to technology and our kids, I plan to answer 3 questions. Number 1, how did we get here? Number 2, what do you need to know? And number 3, what do you need to do? Ultimately, I want to set you up for success when it comes to this rocky path that is parenting in a tech world. So, if that sounds good to you, let's jump in. Number 1, how did we get here? If parents 20 years ago hopped in a time machine and looked at parenting today, they'd be like, what? I mean, kids are on devices up to 8 hours a day. They're learning how to cook you dinner thanks to things like YouTube. But look, it's not all roses. No, on the flip side, they're being exposed to hardcore pornography at a very young age. Drug dealers are connecting with kids on Snapchat. Sexting is the new first base. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in kids in this country. And kids have access to information at their fingertips instead of, having to go to a library or ask an adult. But look, it's not all bad news. I mean, kids are being paid to play video games of all things and getting college scholarships for it. What this means for all of us is that tech is neither good nor bad. It is a tool that must be used responsibly, and it is a reflection of who we are. Technology is a tool that simply shows us a reflection of our humanity. When you wake up in the morning, you check your mirror to see how you look. Sometimes you see good things, and sometimes you see things that are totally out of place. When things are out of place, you don't take down the mirror and throw it away. Instead, you try and fix the things that you don't like. The same thing goes with tech. Just because you see some things that are bad or out of place doesn't mean that everything needs to be thrown out or taken down. You see, the first step when it comes to tech is to examine what's happening. In this step, you are not looking for parental control, but parental intelligence. Now, I am not saying that you don't use parental controls, but you are wanting to see technology the way that your child sees technology. Then you can make an assessment of how those things are and where they need to be. You see, parental intelligence beats parental control every time when it comes to tech. Technology, like a mirror, is a tool that we can leverage for good, even though we might see bad in it. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What do you need to know? Your kids look at technology totally different than you do. Did you know that parents and kids have two totally different questions when they look at technology? They sound very similar, but lead to different outcomes. Parents look at tech with the question, what will this do for me? Notice this is an efficiency and effectiveness question. The reason parents will pay a lot of money for a very high-priced device or a service utilizing technology is because they see it as something that is making them more efficient and effective as a person. Kids, on the other hand, don't have this question. One, because they don't have money. But two, because kids look at technology and they ask the question, what will it do? Notice, they do not ask, what will it do for me, but what will it simply do? Their question is a question of curiosity and adventure. They see tech as a pathway to freedom, not effectiveness. This is why parents and kids will argue over tech so much. They are looking at tech in completely different ways. So, how do you bridge the gap between these two questions? First, parents need to be more curious when it comes to tech. Start asking the question, what will this device do? In many cases, it will surprise you. Second, parents need to start looking for ways to see how effective and efficient their child can be at tech. Give a child a task with an end goal in mind, instead of just handing over a device and saying, here, have some fun. We are now raising kids in a period of time called Childhood 2.0. And if you aren't aware, here's the state of kids and tech today, thanks to very important data from BARC Technologies. I know we all look at our kids and think, no, not my kid. But these sobering stats tell a different story. In the last year, BARC analyzed over 3.4 billion messages across text, email, and 30-plus social media app platforms. Here are the findings. 43% of tweens and 75% of teens were involved in self-harm or suicidal ideation. 69% of tweens and 91% of teens encountered nudity or content of a sexual nature. 20% of tweens and 42% of teens used language about or were exposed to anxiety. 75% of tweens and 93% of teens engaged in conversations surrounding drugs or alcohol. 72% of tweens and 85% of teens experienced bullying as a bully, a victim, or a witness. 32% of tweens and 57% of teens engaged in conversations about depression. 81% of tweens and 95% of teens expressed or experienced violent subject matter or thoughts. Now that I've basically made you queasy, and I know I am, and since I have you for just a few more fleeting moments, I don't want to spend all this time just on how did we get here and what do you need to know. I really want to focus on what do you need to do. So let's jump there. What do you need to do as a parent? First and foremost, give yourself some grace. You are the first generation of parents who are parenting in a tech world. You are the first parents who have children that don't know a world without an iPhone or what a world would be like if it wasn't always connected to the internet. Give yourself a reality check. How you use technology is a good indication on how your child values technology. When you talk about how many likes you have on a photo or how much you wish you could be like that other family who posts all the best updates, it communicates the value that you are putting on technology. Also, have constant conversations. It's the only way to change the stats we just heard. Go ask your child, can you teach me how? How does this device work? How does that app work? Can you teach me how to even change the time on my microwave? Ask leading questions versus yes or no questions. The question that changed my family was the question, what is something interesting that you have seen recently? This question led to something that broke my heart, but it also led to us finding out that our oldest had been exposed to adult material. Other questions that you can ask are, what are your friends doing right now that scare you? If you could create anything in the world, what would you create? And finally, what is the coolest video that your friends have shared with you? And see if your kid will show you the video. You might be surprised with what you see. These questions will lead you to great discovery and into great conversations. Another thing you can do is play a video game with your kid or teen so that you see the game the way they see the game, not so that you just have fun. When you do this, it will bring about awareness of group chat in the game that you may not have known about, which will lead to conversations about how to deal with cyberbullying or even online predators. The goal is not to win the game, even though you're going to want to win the game, but to understand how the game is interacting with others. One of the biggest questions I get all the time is, how much time should my child spend on their device? Look, I understand the motivation of this question. If you can limit the time, then you can limit the exposure to bad things that can happen. The thing is, though, I wish we would ask a better question. The better question is, what is the purpose of my child being on that device? You see, when we measure purpose instead of measuring time, it will change the way we look at technology. Also, when we measure purpose instead of time, we can hold our kids accountable for what is happening on their devices. If it is just about time, then it will cause a fight. If it is about purpose, then it will lead to creating things instead of consuming things. And if you can get your kids to create instead of consume, then you are going to win. You see, curiosity is natural in childhood, but be more curious as a parent. Have a starting place in mind and have an end goal in mind when it comes to technology. The starting place is that you decide as a parent, when is the right time for your child to get a device or use an app? But the end goal is for your child to have a healthy relationship where they determine what needs to be blocked, what needs to be filtered, and what needs to be limited. They determine healthy boundaries. This means you will need to investigate devices and platforms early. But as your child gets older, you learn to trust them and influence their choices instead of making all the choices for them. I know it's not going to be easy. For example, how do you deal with privacy over protection at age 7 or even age 17? At the age of 7, you should know your kids' passwords. At the age of 18, you shouldn't. This journey is not an easy one where you just let go, but you can do it. Be a safe place. Don't freak out. Our goal is not to fight with our kids. The ultimate goal is for when they leave, they can decide what needs to be blocked, what needs to be filtered, what needs to be limited. As parents, you don't need to handle this all on your own. You don't have to know all the answers. As we wrap up, take these 3 concepts away. If you get nothing else, I want you to know these 3 things. Number 1, don't fight for control, fight for intelligence so that you can have a better relationship with your kid. Number 2, the greatest thing that you can do with tech is actually ask better questions. And number 3, fight for purpose. It's not about screen time, it's about screen purpose. We've just scratched the surface on this important topic. If you want more info, join us for the Parenting in a Tech World course from ParentQ. You will be receiving an email with more information after this event. Also, I have the opportunity to work on this mission every day at a company called Bark, where we help millions of families keep their kids safer online. Check us out at bark.us. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Thank you for talking to your kids. And remember, we are here for you. Thank you.
Hopefully you got a ton out of that video. I know after watching it just a few times myself, there's so many important lessons to learn there as parents. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I got in my family was the parental control versus parental intelligence. There used to be a day where you could control what your kids had on their smartphones, on their tablets, just by adding an app or certain things, and you could stop everything bad from entering into it, but it just doesn't work that way anymore. There is no perfect answer to that. And so what this study is showing is, how do we walk alongside with our kids? It's not just about controlling it, and we can't just take something and say, this has bad stuff and it's scary, and throw it away. We have to learn that this is a part of our everyday life. It's a part of our kids' everyday life. It's a part of our everyday life. And there are so many great things that comes from technology. And so how do we parent alongside with them? How do we have those great conversations with our kids to show them this is a great tool, but there's also guides and boundaries that we need to have that. The same way when your kid turns 16 and maybe they start driving, you don't just throw them the keys of the car, but we also don't say, well, you can't drive because it's dangerous. You started walking alongside with them when they were 15. You were in the car with them and teaching them how to do this and the safety for that and how to use this amazing tool to benefit them. And that's how we need to view technology. We walk alongside with them. Don't be afraid just because it's something new. Learn for yourself. Be curious with them. Ask them questions. And that really is the key for this whole study. Not being scared, but learning together and offering healthy boundaries, not just with your kid, but for you and for your family. That is why we want this to be a continued conversation with you and your family and your loved ones. And so if you'd like to do this more, if you'd like to continue on the conversation, I would encourage you, please, if you're in a life group and you want your life group to do this study, or maybe you'd like to find a life group that is already planning on doing this study, you can reach out to us. You can hit up Anna at fbcbluesprings.org. It's listed right below here. Or if you just like to do this study on your own, you can click in the description below and it'll take you right to a link where you can order this study for yourself at a discounted price. We just want you to be able to continue the conversations. Technology isn't going anywhere, and it's not something to be scared of, but it is something we need healthy boundaries for ourselves and for our students, for our kids, for our families. So we hope that you will continue on this conversation with Parenting in a Tech World.